Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Has the slide changed?
Yes. Yeah, we're in business.
Okay, we're in business, right. So, so as I was saying, GE, really, really simple. The least expensive way of managing brand architecture because all the elements are the same. There's no cost. There's very little to do with this. Works for very big conglomerates. This is a branded house. Everyone's familiar with FedEx. So what FedEx does is it uses its brand and then creates divisions. And it occasionally might change its color. So it retains the strong bluey purple color for Fed, adds an extra color and an extra name. So if it starts FedEx Airports, it'll pick another color and so on. It has limitations though, because there are actually not that many colors available for reasons of accessibility, for all sorts of reasons. So they can get stuck. Relatively inexpensive for them as well, apart from putting brands on their planes and trains and vehicles. A house of brands, everyone knows Unilever. These are probably one of the biggest brand portfolios in the world. So what House of Brands do is they have a company that will either buy other companies or create new brands and create a company for that brand. And the reason being, if for some reason Hellman's goes down the tube, it doesn't affect Unilever, other brands. It only affects. So they lose that business. But if it were a branded, if it were the first kind, which is monolithic, the loss of that could actually damage the whole business. So that's how that works. So to bring it into, a local thing, this is a past client of myself and Alex, favorite client ever, worked for them for over 20 years. And they do access control technology. If you look very carefully at the very beautifully designed logo by myself, you'll see a key in between the C and the T, which I'm very proud of. But anyway, so Act, when we started with Act, they had 2 products. And then 20 years later, they had a huge amount. And we had to help them manage as they started adding things like they started with Act Smart and Act Standalone, then they added Act Pro. And below Act Pro, they added 4 other sub things. Then they added Act Entry, Act Software. Then they had Interact, a new thing. But so what we did was we looked at almost a monolithic approach for them. So it was really easy to add things because when you're adding things onto the product, it becomes quite expensive if you're, so every one of these things had hard products that were stuck at entries to doors and things. So it was Act. So, and it's I think he sold it for 7 figures a couple of years ago, which was great. This is from myself and Alex past, and this is again about protecting your business. So myself and Alex had a company called the Cloake Partnership, and under that company we had a number of things we did. So one was Baseline, which was a creative services company, and it was a full services design company. It not only did brand and VizCom, but it also bought things for clients, sold stuff to clients, which we took a margin. We then set up a print management company. And we didn't want to call it Baseline Print Management. We wanted to protect Baseline. So in some ways, there would be corporate clients that wouldn't like the idea of a creative company managing their print. So we called it InStock. And it worked well for a while. One of our biggest clients was BOI. We then got involved with someone else called Hughes. So Drew Cloake Hughes was a broker company. And this was basically a print brokers. And again, we didn't really want it to be part of Baseline. We thought it could affect Baseline. And we didn't want to make the new guy a director of Baseline. So we kept it separate. So this is now a house of brands on the small. And then eventually the guy in DCH, and by the way, we never said Drew Cloake Hughes anywhere in our literature. Or the guy from DCH, the H guy left. So the new company, DCH Partners, was called Don't Call Hughes. And it was again, a creative and procurement agency, which we kept going for a number of years. So this is how we managed our business as we added things on. So say, for example, if Rory was adding on a wealth management service, his choice is either to add it simply as another service under his own company name, or else to set up a second company, which won't interfere with the rest of his business. This is a mixed brand architecture. Construction IT Alliance is a long-term client of mine, and um, every year they create specialist programs like Astro is one and digital housing, and they create new brands for them because they're like products, and they run a series of 12 events every year under each of these. Every second year they have what's called a gathering, which is a big grouping, big event, 300-400 people in a hotel for 2 days. Uh, and then every odd year they do a Tech Live. So Tech Live was on this week actually in Limerick, and each of them have specialist brands. They're also part of the Build Digital Alliance, the Challenge, Change, Learn, and all of them are part of CETA. So the brand strategy for CETA is to have a mixed brand architecture, but always to have the CETA brand prominent in all pieces of work. Um, this was something I did recently for HKC. So HKC is part of Assa Abloy, which is a big Swedish conglomerate. And Assa Abloy, for reasons known only to themselves, have insisted that the Assa Abloy logo be locked into each brand they own. So this was the brand I was given to deal with, which was awful. And we said, look, can we talk to Assa Abloy about possibly changing the way they endorse this brand? Because people in Ireland really don't give a toss, or in Britain, if it's owned by Assa Abloy. And it is in some way diluting the strength of the HKC brand in those markets. So the guys in Assa Abloy said, give us a suggestion. So we said, well, why don't we just endorse everything we do on every product and every piece of literature and every website and so on? And so our suggestion was to have part of Assa Abloy on things like literature. So this is an installer brochure, and they went for it. So soon you'll see all the other guys. I think there's about 100 companies in Assa Abloy. So that's an endorsed brand. This is a client, ArtMac, under Cloake ID. It was a proposal we did for them, and this is from a workshop. So we wanted them to understand what type of brand architecture they should use. So in the workshop question, we built in these. So you said, so here's, which works best for you? Monolithic, monolithic by symbol, which is another way. So they all share the same symbol, but can have different names and things, and maybe different colors. House of brands. So do we create a house of brands for each of these different services that you provide? Or do we have a mixed solution where we have the key ones that seem to work together, like, pharma, clean rooms, data centers, fit out, and then medical devices, which is kind of a different thing? Do we create a separate brand for that? And in fact, we created a strong single brand for ArtMac. So that was the original one, which is shite. And this was our solution. So we created not only a really strong brand, but also what we called Insignia A, which is this A symbol from the logo, which they could use on all sorts of things. So it was quite a good solution for them, and it's still working really well. And you could have things like on cups and other things, just simply the Insignia A, and you'd get it. Evros. Um, when we met Evros, they were called Hibernia Evros, and they're a tech company. And we said, you sound like an insurance company. There's too many companies called Hibernia. Why don't you just use the word Evros? And they were saying, no, I can't do that. But after a long discussion, and we showed them this brand architecture where, again, you had monolithic, symbol-based, house of brands. So they own Digital Planet and a thing called IT Contracting. House of Brands endorsed, where they said it was part of the, group. And then, again, a mixed approach. So we ended up convincing him to change the name to Evros, that Evros was a great name. It's actually a river in Greece, so you can tell a story about it, you know. We wrote their tagline, fresh thinking, which made them sound techy and different. And we did a lockup for everything that was printed or produced that would have the three logos, the Evros, IT Contracting, and Digital Planet, which is the three primary things. So every time Evros was seen, these things would happen. And likewise, on IT contracting literature, you would have the same lockup. So you would see those three things. So 15 minutes, Al. And then I thought I'd finish with a picture from my recent trip to Connemara. So
Well done, Nick. Thanks for that. We'll have some questions in a second. Thank you very much indeed. I'll just stop the